Look at these guys already saying it's lonely in the comments.
So
What's up, Eric? How you doing,
what
buddy?
What is up, Mike? Welcome everyone to the Angelic Studio.
Oh my goodness.
Powered by Contagion Effect and a few of our favorite sponsors. Thank you very much.
First off, welcome to the Contagion Effect Show, everyone.
Thank you.
Where we talk to our veterans, first responders, talk about mental health. We love and support our military and our first responders. So thank you all for everything you're doing. As Eric plays with his camera now, we've only had like 45 minutes of time.
Are you serious? Don't even
Eric's
go there.
already gonna start messing with
Don't
stuff.
even go there.
But Tonto and Shadow Mark, you are not lonely anymore.
And Carlos.
And then Carlos is joining the crowd.
We got Carlos coming up, dude.
Yeah,
are we doing back-to-back Stocktons?
Are we? No, Carlos.
No, Battle Buddies. Yeah. Urban Battle Buddies next week.
Ooh, Triple B next week.
Triple B. But I think we're gonna have to bust out some bourbon. Carlos is the 18th.
Okay.
18th.
All right.
So we're gonna go West Coast, then back to East Coast, and back to West Coast.
Hey, whatever.
West Coast, the best.
And so, what's up, Nana Penny?
Hello, my boys.
Hello, my boys.
Shut up, Baba. I know. It's all good. It's all good.
Well, what's cool is we're in our new studio, right?
Yes.
And we were talking about before the show. One of our things is we want to put up on our wall like a huge map and start pinning where we're talking to everybody, right?
It's gonna be great. All 50 states.
Yeah,
and
that would
like
be cool.
64 episodes.
Soon Alaska.
And guess what? 60 of those pins are gonna be in effing Nebraska.
Yeah,
that's not gonna be awesome.
We're gonna have a ton of them in Nebraska.
That's gonna be awesome. We love our Nebraska family. Listen, you guys are all family. Real quick, shout out, prayers to everybody. This has been a rough week for some people, some of our viewers, but we are here for you. Come enjoy our show. Please come and enjoy our show because there is laughter and there is comedic value that is part of this place.
Sometimes.
All the time.
At least when Mike
talking about. Mike's the interview.
Nebraska.
I'm just here from
Nebraska is life.
Nebraska is life. Because there's that song. There's that country song. The sun, the rain.
I know it's got to be Derek because it can't be Joe Mingo because he don't talk.
Well, plus he spelled it all right.
Yeah.
It's all corrected. Just kidding. Love you all. Appreciate you guys for joining us here on the Contagion Effect Show.
It's pretty funny, Eric.
Dude, there's gonna be some changes coming up.
Do you want that?
Hey, everybody, welcome again to
let Eric do his thing.
I love it. Again, everyone, welcome to the Angelic Wines Studio. AngelicWines.com for all of your wine needs. 209-581-5222. Deucey Deuce up in this bitch. Thank you for being a proud sponsor.
You couldn't hold the word.
Ew, oh my God. Like, what are you complaining about? Damn it.
Eric, how was your week, buddy?
My week was sensational.
Shot out of a cannon.
Yeah. And so I love my Beans Coffee House in Waterford, the suburb of River Point. Love it. Finding out some things about myself.
It's a suburb of River Point.
Yeah, or vice versa. Whatever, dude. Whatever. Who's counting?
What's great is 99% of our audience doesn't understand. Our guest understands because he's going to be a local guy, so he understands.
I can
how
get him
funny
a hookup.
That actually is.
I can get him a 10% discount if you use the.
I'm sure he's going to rush right over to Beans.
You can use the code Contagion Effect Show. Or point out the sticker on the wall.
The only reason to go to Waterford is Taco Bell.
Not even that, dude.
Like, and to go to what's right up the hill a little more.
Black Oak Casino.
No.
Robert's Ferry Gourmet.
Yeah.
Go and bother little brown-haired blonde.
All I hear is Jamie talk about her almond butter shake.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, speaking of hair, you know the color of this wine right now? I know everybody's waiting for an update.
Oh.
You see the color of that wine? It almost matches my hair.
Oh God!
Hair update.
It is close,
dude. It's like 7
Especially different on the front,
dude. The brown's starting to come back with the gray. I'm gonna be honest. I'm kind of digging it now.
Okay.
Like it's
At least you are
mellowed out a bit.
Dun.
Beans Coffee.
It is Beans. It is legitimately
Beans Coffee,
called
but
Beans
I changed
Coffee.
it. It's not Beans Coffee House. It's Beans. Something about coffee and some stuff like that.
All right, Eric. So your week was good.
Week was good. Again, a lot of things going on. Go check look. We got a big thing that happened this week. We did. We had a big thing.
What?
There was a launch. gunroomradio.airtime.pro / or go to any of your electronic devices and download.
He's drinking wine, but he was talking about Beans Coffee.
I was talking about Beans Coffee because I can't do their zips anymor because of the sugar content.
That's a nice rosé for you, Derek.
Nice rosé. It goes with my hair color. Okay.
All right.
Look at the legs and the talons, the way that it grips the sides.
What?
The way that it grips the sides of the glass.
All right, we need a little Gary. We're gonna go to Gary.
Gary Miller Mobile Tax Service.
We don't need any more Eric advertising. Out there bobbing their heads to that little tune.
It's a great song, dude.
Roger.
Robert's Ferry Gourmet.
Is that what the name
Robert's
of
Ferry Gourmet? 2 locations, one in Oakdale and one right up the road outside of River Point.
Outside of River Point.
And if you tell them if you could use the club card, you could use the discount code. I don't know. We'll figure something out.
Food place.
Give me a call and I'll pay for your lunch or whatever.
Beans Cafe is a homeless shelter in Alaska. Not best for
that. Is
the best.
Awesome.
That is great. And look there's a Mellow.
Hey,
what's
Brooklyn
up,
Mellow.
What's up?
What's cracking, baby?
So
that's the oldest.
Yes, that is the oldest.
Lover.
So week was good.
Yeah, we went out to the Roberts Ferry Bridge. They had Roberts Ferry School had their 100th celebration. There were some people that were in the first class.
Thank you.
Telling you right now.
Boom. Look at. I got to turn the right way.
Yeah.
See?
Oh,
this is
nice
the veteran, and I got to rep my team, but I love my hat. My wife bought me this hat this week, so I appreciate. Shout out to Paparazzi for the hookup on the hat.
It's a nice looking hat, Pop.
And what are you wearing?
Paparazzi, same old shit that I wear every freaking day.
What is it?
It's the damn demons behind me who I'm trying to get sponsored by. What's up, Frank Contreras? What's cracking, buddy?
What's up, Frank? I have my sit rep 22.
He's gonna start here.
There we go.
Oh, yeah, he got his.
Yeah, don't start. I don't want to hear.
Let's hear some Scotty Hasty.
You want some Scotty Hasty?
Let's hear some Scotty.
I don't want to talk to these people anymore.
Yeah, the times and places they may change, but one thing stays the same. They tell about going through hell. If you think they wouldn't do it all over again, well, you just don't know them. The memories that they own of the ones who didn't make it home, yeah, sure do miss them, but they keep them all living in the stories that they tell.
You running Scotty Hastings there. That's awesome. Carlos, I don't want to hear about the SF hat, man. I like you, but don't wear the SF hat when you come on the show, please. Please.
Oh, dude, you know what you just did.
Now he's gonna wear it.
You know
I did.
Yeah.
What's up, Tom? How you doing, buddy? Thank you for the conversation this morning. I appreciate you. It helps to have those great conversations and talk to people who sometimes understand what you're going through, right? So thank you, Tom. I appreciate you. Now he's gonna wear the Giants hat, of course. Hey, first place. That's all I'll say.
Oh boy, we still have like 140 games left.
I don't care. Still first place, buddy.
Jeez, that's fine. You'll win the league, and then you'll win the division. That's great.
First series. So.
Congratulations, 14 years in a row, and
all right,
and one World Series champion.
Enough. I don't want. I'm just waiting for the Lakers to beat the Warriors. That's all I care about now.
That's tonight too.
Yep. Next game tonight. Oh, look at he's gonna come.
Hey, way to wear that double
don't
A.
Make me go back to 88. Don't make me go back to 88 right now. I know we're gonna talk about 89, but we can talk about 88.
You know what? Let's just get to it. Let's bring it on. We'll tell everyone what we're talking about. Again, going through the rabbit hole, finding different things. was looking and checking things out, and I saw this gentleman, and his story is something that is a local. It was unfortunately it was like at the beginning of whenever school shootings happen, and they were, I hate to say it this way, they were I don't even want to say that, but when they were far and few between, right? The impact of it was more mesmerizing, and there was more questions of the who and the what and the why and the where and how did it happen and all this. But the triumph that this gentleman has is amazing. The places that he's gone to talk and the support that he's given back from what happened to him when he was young is amazing. It's totally amazing. So without further ado, in my rambling, I'd like to bring on Mr. Rob Young. Rob, thank you. Welcome to the Contagion Effect Show.
Yes. Welcome, Rob.
What's going on, guys? How you guys doing?
We are living life right now. We're excited to talk to you. That's where we're at right now.
Well,
so
thank you for having me, guys. I've been looking forward to this ever since Eric reached out, and watched some clips and stuff from your guys' show. And
I'm sorry.
Hope it was the good
part, right? You guys are pretty fun, man. I'm looking forward to meeting you guys in person.
We try, we talk about serious things, so we got to have some fun in there as well, right?
Yeah.
So it's that whole fun, serious, fun sandwich, right?
Right.
Got to lead with that. So first off, this is a little different because normally, I mean, we talk to veterans, but we said we've been talking to first responders as well because we've had the chief on and
North Platte Fire Department.
And Rob, you worked for Stockton Unified, right?
Yeah, I was a police sergeant up until this last February. Technically, I'm still on the books. I'm still current, but in the process of being medically retired. But I spent 7.5 years as a police sergeant with the school district police in Stockton. I was with Union City for about 9.5 years before that, and I was actually an officer with Stockton Unified School District before Union City for about.
So I want to jump ahead. You started with Stockton and then went to Union.
Yeah, I started with Stockton Unified, went to Union City, and then I came back as a sergeant in 2016.
Probably better money in Union City.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Well, his big story.
About a $40,000 a year pay cut to come back to a job that was making salary, but over the course of 7.5 years, I was making a lot more than I was making in Union City. So the district actually paid pretty well.
Well, I'm excited because this is one of our first, I mean, barring some of our very early guests that before we moved over to the veteran niche, but we live in the same town, which is
we do. We're neighbors.
Hi.
Which I'd love to have you in the studio, but we just revamped and it's not quite there and it's kind of ugly right now. So
cool.
It will be cool. Other than for the naked eye, you'll just see 2 green walls because that's going to be our green screens. And then that way our video looks, it's not like we don't turn into disappearing acts, right? So
I think I look pretty good.
Well, I'm in my home office and we shoot our podcast in Tracy. So
do you? Okay.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Dang.
You guys have a studio?
My producer actually has a home studio.
Producer,
man.
What is this? Hold on, let me unbutton my shirt a minute here.
That's all right. You guys have sponsors. I don't. So
hey, we'll talk after the show. How about that?
Yeah,
sure.
We'll talk. We'll talk after the show.
And we will be talking about Rob's podcast as well. We want to make sure we show the love to everything Rob. I just wanted to. I love the local connection because I'm very proud of our little town. Rob is we talked earlier. He loves our little town as well. So, and Eric may have tried to talk him into joining the Sober Grad. Group.
Oh no, we're going to. He's all about service and community. He said
he didn't give me much of an option.
You got voluntold, huh? That's that's the way. That's the way.
Price of commitment.
That's the way.
We're gonna go full in. You're gonna.
Are you saying we're married now or what? That's crazy.
No, you're BFFs though, for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, I'll get half a heart right here.
You get the other half.
And superpowers activate. That's what we can do.
Exactly.
That's how we roll. Everybody we meet knew. Oh, did we just become best friends?
That's how it is. Exactly. It's a contagion effect.
Yeah.
It is. It really.
You can't say contagion effect because then that's us. But then
now Siri's trying to get in the conversation over here.
You just have to call me Nighthawk.
Yeah. Nighthawk. Oh,
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
He's got a nick. Now we got to come up with cool nicknames.
Right. Dragon.
All right. So, Rob, again, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for taking your time out of your evening away from family to come talk to a couple knuckleheads and some of your experiences. So, I always like to start with just understanding who you are, what you're about, like where you came from. So, where did you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up in Stockton. Born and raised there. Moved around a lot growing up. Didn't grow up, in a very rich family. In fact, it was quite the opposite. We lived in cars, motel rooms, on the floor, families, houses, and very unstable environment. I tell people all the time, I when I tell my story, I'm not trying to knock my parents. I love my mom and dad. My dad passed away a few years ago. My mom's still around. She's taking a lot of good steps, in the right direction. So, but it wasn't always that way. And we should probably been taken. I was one of 5 boys. I'm the middle of 5 boys. Have 2 older brothers from my mom's first marriage. And then me and my 2 little brothers, are my dad's. So.
Wow. And for those that don't know, I know we have listeners all over the country. I mean, Stockton, you take it and compare it to Oakland. And I know when I was running, I actually ran AT&T stores back in the day there. And I mean, the murder rate was per capita was actually higher in Stockton versus Oakland.
We've steadily been in the top 5 worst places to live in the United States, for many, many years.
You go over to A Street and, I used to work for another wireless company and I had to go to the stores, to the little liquor store on A Street and like airport. Yeah. And, I turned my ring around so none of the diamonds showed. I'll just tell you that right now, because it's a different place. Like if you don't fit in, they know and they'll come at you. So Stockton's not an easy town. There are some nicer parts, but it is for the most part.
There's a lot of good people in Stockton. I tell people, no matter where you're at, I mean, especially working in law enforcement, it's always like the same 10 to 15% of people that you're dealing with on the negative aspect,
right?
And but it's a big 10 or 15% there.
It is.
Well, it's funny too because Stockton's 8 Mile is not like everyone else's 8 Mile, right? I mean,
no.
And also Country Club.
Detroit's 8 miles pretty bad.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. But 8 Mile in Stockton.
Stockton's 8 miles is nice.
It's actually nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's out by the golf course. And
that. But MLK is like everybody else's MLK.
Yeah, but if you go down Country Club, I mean, you go through a little bit, but you get out towards the Delta there, and you got the other golf course. And I mean, I think per capita, I have like 4 golf courses or 3.
Look at that! Look at Tato knowing all about Stockton.
Dang,
so what high
you
school
missed
did
it.
you go?
It's not even on there.
You forgot Stag.
I went to Stag.
Yeah,
Edison,
you forgot the one
Stag.
He went to.
Stag, yeah, but he threw it in St. Mary's though.
He did throw it.
I mean, I know you're in Alaska, but I mean.
I just said I wasn't privileged.
Yeah.
he did say he was living in the car. St. Mary's, unless he was a star football player or basketball player, he wasn't going to St. Mary's.
Yeah, I went to the St. Mary's dining hall. A little different.
Hey, did you know their principal at one time was an NFL referee?
Which school?
At St. Mary's. I forgot his name. Yeah, don't forget about the Miracle Mile. Yeah, that's
There's some good eats there. There's some good eats there on Miracle Mile. I'm gonna give them a shout out.
I will.
I'm not.
There's one place I will.
California Kitchen.
No,
California Pizza.
No.
Or what was that?
It's the Thai place.
Oh.
But what's up? What's up, Joey? Yeah. She's actually an old Tie Me Up. She's actually an old employee of mine.
Oh, okay. You can shout it out.
Oh, yeah. No, she's great people. Yuli and Carlos.
What? Dude, if you're telling me you're that close.
I went to Lodi and today.
Oh, Tokay.
Like,
I know. I was like, wait a minute.
So you went to Stag. All right. So because your story actually starts when you're a little younger, we need to take a step back.
Okay.
So
yeah, go ahead. So you set the story. You go ahead. You go ahead.
Yeah. So, I always tell people, my story really begins January 17th, 1989. I was a first grade kid at Cleveland Elementary School. Lived about 7 blocks from the school. My mom at the time was working for a medical center there, St. Joseph's. And like I said, we didn't have much money, so we had one car. My dad always left, with the car in the morning to head to work because he worked out of town. So my mom, she walked me to school. And that morning was really no different. And, our routine was we'd walk down Center Street. It was a straight shot from our house. And she would walk up to the back gate. And at the time, there was no like swinging gate. It was just like a pole and a pole, and it was just a pass through. And there was a church next door. And then University Pacific was just a few blocks to the west of our campus. And so I remember her, telling me that morning, she's like, I don't have a good feeling about today. And she's like, I don't want to send you to school. She just had this feeling in the pit of her stomach. And, I told her, I'm like, hey, I'm looking forward to going to school. I loved going to school at the time. And we had a big kickball game that day. So I was like, hey, I got to get to school and play some kickball. And so my mom, kissed me on my forehead, and off to work she went. And I entered the campus and went to class. And by the time our first recess came around, the course of history really was changed.
U.S.
So a little a little background on our school. A lot of people find interesting was it was about 70% Southeast Asian immigrant families that were coming in from Khmer Rouge and Cambodia and Vietnam, and so a lot of their families had escaped those killing fields and the genocide thing that was going on in those countries, and they moved to Stockton. They immigrated to Stockton. And for whatever reason, they were placed in an apartment complex that was near our school. And so a lot of our students, were from Southeast Asia. Mm-hmm. And so, so recess came, and we get out on the blacktop, and we're playing our game of kickball, and chaos just erupted. And
so you were out at recess?
I was out at recess. Okay. And the way the kickball diamond was, I wish I had an overview of the school. The kickball diamond was painted on the blacktop, and it was located near a set of portables. And next to those portables was that same walkway that I walked in, and so did the gunman that morning. He set his car on fire, used a Molotov cocktail, walked on campus. He was 27 years old. He was armed with an AK-47 and a 9mm pistol. And he took a kneeling stance on one of the sides of the portables and opened fire. And what's crazy is, 34 years later, I'm still learning things that happened that day. Because, obviously it happened pretty quick, but I was told that right before he started opening fire, he actually walked up to one of the classroom doors of those portables. And, the portals had the metal ramp that walked up, and then the big safety glass windows in the classroom. Well, he glanced into the classroom that was full of kids, but the teacher had seen him walking up with the gun in hand. She shut the lights off and told her students to hide. And it was a classroom full of deaf kids. So she had to sign to them, danger. And they were able to hide in the corner, wasn't able to lock the door or anything. And by the grace of God, he glanced in. I don't know if he saw anybody, but he walked down, and that's when he opened fire. So back to the chaos. Everybody took off running. And, I wasn't raised around guns. I wasn't raised around firearms at all, up until that point. And the only thing I knew about gunfire was what I'd seen on TV, and so I knew something bad was going on. I knew, everybody was taking off running, and mama didn't raise no fool. I took off running too. And I had about probably a good 80 to 90 yard sprint to my classroom. My classroom faced the pretty much a straight line where the gunman was at. Mm-hmm. And he was spraying into this blacktop. I didn't beeline it towards my classroom. I actually ran towards a handball wall in the middle of the playground. And I turned at one point, and I noticed a young man that was playing tetherball. He got hit, went down. He was actually fatally wounded. Again, it still wasn't registering, what was going on. And I turned around. I'm looking for my buddy Scotty. I don't see him. I look up towards my classroom. I'm like, I got to get to my classroom. And as I turned to kind of hide behind this wall, a round struck my right foot. My foot went above my head. I hit the ground, and another round struck the pavement right in front of me. It broke apart, lost a lot of its velocity, but I still have a large piece of that bullet in my chest to this day.
Oh, wow.
And,
Wow.
And so, I wasn't in a whole lot of pain at the time. I remember standing up and remember my foot felt heavy. Again, not registering that I had been shot, and just knew that I needed to get, to a place of safety. So I kind of braced myself on the opposite side of this handball wall, which was it literally was just a plywood, and lumber wall.
Right.
So it was concealment. It really wasn't cover, if you understand the difference between the two.
Mhm.
And rounds started going through the wall above my head. And I remember wood exploding, and that caused me to just kind of flinch and take off running as best as I could. And like I said, our classroom door, it opened up to the blacktop, and we had a substitute teacher that morning, and she was yelling for us to get in. And what a day, right? And,
Yeah.
people were just diving into classrooms, and mind you, the gunman's still firing.
Right.
He's still shooting, and everybody's running. People are going down. And I remember getting to my classroom, and she did the only thing that she knew how to do, and she told us to get down. And I remember rounds piercing through the walls. I remember the dust from the drywall kind of floating through the air. And I went to my desk, and I got under my desk as the rounds were still coming through and hitting the desks. And I remember the sound of it slapping against the metal. And I remember looking up and just seeing people screaming, but it was eerily quiet at the same time.
Right.
And I glance over, and my friend Scotty, he had been picked up by one of the staff members and brought into our class, and he's hiding under his desk. The gunshots are still going off for, a good minute and a half. And all of a sudden we heard like the last pop, and that was the gunman sticking a pistol in his mouth out on the blacktop and committing suicide.
Wow.
And so I remember, sitting up Indian style and looking down at my shoe. And mind you, this is January, so it's just a few weeks after Christmas. And, like I said, we came from a pretty poor family, and I had these new LA Gears on. This is 89. Those are big deals.
Pay less shoe socks right there.
And so I remember there was a hole that went through my shoe on each side, and there was blood pouring out. And I'm sitting there, and I look down at my new sweater that I just got from my aunt for Christmas, and there's blood all over my chest. And my friend Scotty scoots over towards me, and he says, Robbie, he goes, he's looking at it, and I go, Scotty, look at my shoe. And he lifts up his pant leg, and he goes, Robbie, look at my leg. And he had a hole, an entrance wound in his thigh, it was about like that. But the exit wound was like golf ball size. And you can see clear through his thigh. And we're just sitting there looking at each other. We weren't crying or anything. And
wow.
He told me, he said, Robbie, I think we've been shot. So again, not having any experience.
First graders going through this
I think
process.
we've been shot.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, the first thing when I saw the damage to my shoe and my clothes, it pissed me off because
you're like, I know I'm not going to get more.
Right. My shoes are ruined. Yeah. And I thought I was going to get in trouble, because my mom said, hey, don't mess up your new shoes. And it's like the logic of a 6-year-old kid.
Right.
But when Scotty told me we've been, I think we've been shot, imagine what that does to a 6-year-old kid. The only thing I knew was what I'd seen on TV, and when people get shot on TV, they died. And people ask, what was going through your mind at that point? And I honestly, what went through my mind was, I can't die right now because my mom's not here. And I felt, I was like alone, and I was like, if I'm gonna die, I want my family here. And I remember, just sitting there, and again, I wasn't in a whole lot of pain at the time, and it seemed like forever for the paramedics and the first responders to, make it into our classroom. And, I just remember the look on their faces when they came in. It was like, they were in shock. They were like, what just happened? Because like you guys mentioned, the term active shooter wasn't a term back then.
Yeah.
And neither was the response, and we still don't have it all right in law enforcement to this day. But we're getting a lot better than where we were as a whole. Back then it was a mess. Everybody responded and everybody did what they knew how to do, but there was so much chaos and so much stuff that happened that shouldn't have happened, and delays, and it's just it was a mess. And I remember the paramedics coming in and they started doing what paramedics do, and they started cutting off my shirt and cutting off my shoes. And, that pissed me off that they were cutting my clothes apart. And I remember them, sticking me with IVs and trying to give me morphine. And I bit the paramedic, and he grabs his hand, he's like shaking it off. And my kindergarten teacher from the year prior was standing next to me. And she knelt down and she's just like trying to hold it all in. And she grabs my face and she's like, "Robbie, they're helping you.
Here to help.
You need to stop." And the paramedic looked at me and he said something I'll never forget. And this is something that I've always carried with me. And he said, "Young man, the fact that you're feeling pain means that you're alive. And that's a good thing." He goes,
Wow.
I need to help you.
I want to stop you real quick.
Yeah.
We're going to get to the questions. I'm going to write the questions down, Mike, and then we'll answer those throughout the
Absolutely.
interview. But I did want to give due diligence to the 5 victims, right? They were 9, 6, 6, 8, and 6. Is there an issue if I say their names?
No, go ahead.
Online. I mean, honestly, at this
all
point,
online,
it is all online.
Yeah. So I guess it's.
If you could pronounce them all, I would be impressed.
Or Rathanar, Ram.
You're reading last name first. Whatever site you're on.
Om, Lim, and Thu Tran.
Yeah.
Those are the 5 that passed away.
Well, and
4 girls and a boy.
Yeah.
And the sad part is in reading this story, one of the last things he said was that the Hindus and the boat people own everything in this area. And that was the comment. I guess he was at a hotel or something. And this is the gunman said that, the Hindus and the boat people own everything and it's not fair. And then he took off and this is where he ended up, was at this elementary school, sadly.
Yeah. He had a lot of jargon and rhetoric, written on his rifle. He had Hail Satan. He meant Hail Satan. He couldn't spell because he's an illiterate POS. But he had a lot of hatred, obviously. I mean, people say, what was the reason? I mean, we could speculate, but he killed himself, and so he wasn't interviewed. This shooting, it was over in less than 3 minutes. And you got to think about average response times, even in an urban environment like Stockton. I mean, best case scenario, is 2 to 3 minutes nationally. This stuff happens real fast.
And he fired 105 shots, injuring 30, including a teacher. And then he unfortunately killed 5 and then killed himself, as Rob mentioned.
Yeah. And so I, the paramedics, they took us out on the front lawn of the school, and they, had us strapped down to backboards. And there's a pretty famous picture that circulates around of me actually holding an oxygen mask.
That's on your Facebook as well, right?
Yeah. And that picture was on the front page of the New York Times, and I actually saw it on eBay of all places when I was searching for gun parts later.
You're searching for gun parts, and that picture.
I was building a rifle, and that picture came up, and it just it was weird, But it's an old Associated Press photo.
Shadow Mark wanted to know how long it took after the adrenaline to wear off.
For the adrenaline,
it started wearing off. As I was sitting out in front of the school, it was I'd say several minutes. That's when the pain just started, kicking in. But they had us on morphine, and they had us feeling pretty good. But there was definitely a lot of pressure and throbbing, and just what you would imagine, gunshot feeling like, like a hot steak going through your flesh. But I was loaded up into an ambulance and taken to Lodi, actually, of all places, which is the town north of Stockton. No, all the hospitals were packed.
Right.
And so they took me off to Lodi. Now, mind you, I told you my mom worked at a medical center nearby. Yeah. And so she was just a nursing assistant. She wasn't an RN or anything. She worked in the cancer unit. And she just got done wheeling a patient to the room. And somebody said, "Hey, Brenda, did you hear about the shooting that happened at Cleveland?"
Oh, no.
Oh.
Not realizing that, her son went there, that I went there. And my mom was thinking Cleveland, Ohio. And she's like, what happened? Yeah, that school down the street. There's a bunch of kids that were shot. We got them incoming. It's going to be all hands on deck. And she starts freaking out. She's like, what? You know, by the time she turned around, her boss was coming down the hallway and said, Brenda, we have a phone call for you. And she walks over and she grabs the phone, and it was one of the nurses from Doctor's Hospital in Lodi. And they said, you know, Mrs. Young, we have your son here. He's been injured. We need you to come. And she said, is my son alive? And they said, we can't tell you that over the phone. You just need to get here. And she says, you're going to tell me if my son is alive or not. And the lady reluctantly said, you know, your son is alert and conscious, and he's asking for you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I couldn't even, I mean, to try to imagine the whole situation is just, yeah, it's a lot. It's, and to know, you know, this is something, you know, that made national news because it was early on in everything. And now we almost become immune to it. Sadly. I mean, we obviously aren't, like, we're sad for the loss of life, and we won't get into the political stuff, but
right.
where it gets interesting is, you know, your decisions in life after this, right? And where you end up. And, you know, you even just said, like, you're shopping for gun parts. I mean, it doesn't get any clearer than somebody who was actually shot during one of these, and your thought process through what happened to you.
Yeah, you know, I knew even at a young age that this wasn't normal. This wasn't the norm. This wasn't supposed to happen. Things like this shouldn't happen. But I didn't have that typical knee-jerk reaction, you know. And my dad was afraid. You know, again, we weren't raised with guns, right? But I spent 3 days in the hospital, I'll mind you that. So 3 days I was home, and like you said, it made national news. It made world news. I had cards and gifts from London, you know, at my doorstep. You know, schools from all over the world were sending us stuff. But as I'm healing at home, my dad was worried that I was going to be, you know, kind of a freak afterwards, you know, and worried about my mental stability. And he said, you know, I knew you were going to be okay when you're on your crutches and you're playing with your friends and you had your crutch up and you're using it as a machine gun and you're shooting your buddies, you know, with this thing. He's like, my kid's going to be all right. You know, he's going to be normal. And, you know, my parents never took that stance of, you know, freaking out and blaming the gun or anything like that. We just knew it was a sick individual, you know. And my mom, she was so stuck on, you know, hating that guy. And I don't say his name unless I have to.
That's why we have.
Yeah, we haven't either. That's I'm not giving him any airplay.
But, you know, I mean, I just did a presentation for a threat assessment group, and I did use his name because I thought it was relevant for that group, you know, to talk about, because it was about him really, and, you know, the early warning signs and stuff that, you know, that were there. But yeah, I typically don't say his name, but I also was the one that checked my mom literally while I was still in the hospital. And I looked at her, and I remember vividly, man, looking at her and saying, Mom, you got to let it go. Like, this isn't normal. Mm-hmm. As a 6-year-old. And she was like, you know, I was checked by a first grader, you know, and she was like, I wasn't the one laying in that bed. And she said it helped her, you know, kind of let it go, you know? So, yeah, luckily I didn't take that stance. I never have taken the stance. I've never blamed the gun. You know, it's the individual. I knew that. And
I love that belief. So, you know, obviously you took a little time. Now, going back to school, when did the school open back up and you actually go back to school?
So, you know, unfortunately, we've had quite a few more shootings happen over the years, right?
Right.
And, you know, remember Sandy Hook, you know, they bulldozed that place. Mm-hmm. You know, after that incident, Cleveland, they brought in janitors and custodians and facility workers and worked through the night and opened up the next day.
Wow.
Yeah. There's still bullet holes in some of those walls. There's still bullet holes in some of the classrooms that they weren't able to patch, but there's a round that went through one of the tetherball poles. I mean, you know, it's the evidence is still there if you know where to look, but they thought it was important to open the campus the next day. That was the decision by the principal and the school district. And, you know, whether that was right or wrong, I can't really say.
Right.
That was their decision, and they wanted to show everybody, like, hey, we're here. and the worst thing that they can do in their minds was shut the doors and not have any place for these families to go, and they offered a lot of counseling, and they had a lot of people on site. Obviously, the school wasn't the same for several months, but the next day.
But even,
and I was out for a month.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
But even at that, think about like counselors talking to 6-year-olds about being shot. Like, I mean, what does that look like? That's not a conversation that should ever happen.
And remember, this is 1989.
Yeah. And it's, now we, it's kind of like we see it a lot, but back then it was unheard of.
Yeah.
Columbine put it on the map.
Columbine, everybody thinks the first school shooting in America, the mass school shooting in America, was Columbine, but
no, and
my buddy Travis and I, we went back. We were finding mass attacks back in the 1700s, that were recorded. But Cleveland Elementary, from what I know, it was the first of its kind, where it was an intruder who came onto campus. There was other school shootings where it was student on student. There were people shot on campus from, shootings that happened across the street or in front of the campus and drive-bys and stuff like that. But it was the first of its kind in that regard.
Well, and the age of the kids. No, absolutely. It just the age of the kid. You have a grown ass man shooting small children. That's just, the sickness is.
It's the definition of evil.
Yeah. Exactly.
So real quick, and you were, oh my gosh, I almost did a Mikey. So you were out for a month and you came back, right? So did they have like drills? Did they start stuff? Did they have programs that were going on, or did they just kind of like run of the day?
It was the same, earthquake drills and fire drills, but as far as any like active shooter drills, I don't remember. From the time I, of the shooting till I graduated, I don't remember ever going through any type of active shooter lockdown or drill or anything like that.
Well, that's relatively new. A one-off.
Yeah.
I guess. So. Yeah. And so, it's funny, we do all these fire drills, but can you find a time where a student in America was killed in a school fire? I don't. It may have happened. I don't know. I'm not saying it didn't, but but that's what we do. How many duck and cover drills did you guys have growing up?
Yeah. Well, especially those of us that grew up in the Bay. We dealt with those duck and cover all the time.
Yeah, the earthquake and
right. It happens, and I'm saying that we need to plan for that, but we don't do enough even now, for that. And I'm not going to knock, Cleveland. I'm not going to knock SUSD, the school district, but it took them 20 plus years to put a locked gate up front, and the school they've done a lot of work in the last, 5-10 years, but it took 20 something years for that to happen. There's a story I'll share. It was the 20-year anniversary, and it was the first public memorial that we had, and we had it at the Children's Museum in Stockton. And in fact, the teacher that was shot at Cleveland, she was the founder of the Children's Museum, and it's an awesome place. If you guys have never,
been there.
And in fact,
not even
there's a brass plaque in front of that building that is dedicated to the kids that were killed,
didn't know
the
that.
victims of Cleveland School. Yeah, Janet Gang, she was awesome. But we had this first public memorial, and they asked me to come and share, and I came and told my story and talked about just how to survive something like that and the importance of keeping on, right? And I remember that was my message, and the importance of not forgetting that that incident. And I'm standing there with my parents, and this was 14 years ago now, and there was a gentleman that came up and introduced himself, and he was a facilities worker for the school district. And he said, he goes, you talked about the pass through that you walked through, and there was no locking gate. He goes, well, there's a gate there now. I said, yeah. He goes, I'm the one that installed that. And he said, I'll never forget, it was the day after the shooting, they put a locking gate back there. And he goes, I remember when I picked up the gate from the courtyard, or from the courtyard, he said there was a note that was zip tied to the gate, and it said, when ordered, November of 1988. When manufactured and delivered to SUSD, December of 1988.
Wow.
When installed, and it had January 18th, 1989. So when needed was yesterday. And he goes, I'll never forget that note. I don't know who put that note on there, but he was like sobbing, you know, as an older Hispanic gentleman. And he goes, that has always stayed with me. And he goes, man, I'll never forget those words, you know, and a gate wouldn't have stopped somebody, but it's a deterrent, right?
Right. Well, if it wasn't as easy, I mean, he probably may have went somewhere else. So who knows? I mean, he was on a mission.
To know that
So Tonto, that is the place that they do have the fire truck inside there. So
like I said, to know that he was going to an elementary school. I mean, that, like you said, that's just evil. It's just literally.
Like he went to that school when he was younger, back in kindergarten, I think through second grade, he went there. And, you know, people speculate, you know, his hatred. He was making comments in bars saying that he was going to be famous and, you know, to watch out for his name. I mean, he left clues. He left little rabbit trails, you know, and little tidbits that he was going to do something and do something stupid.
My next question. Yeah. What were some of the warning signs? Obviously, it's after the fact, right? I mean, you go back in and see all the.
But even at that, you think about, again, this is not something that happened every day. How good was the investigation after, you know, he shot himself? At that point, they're like, oh, well, he's gone. You know, did they look for what were the signs? I mean, they obviously can read.
Yeah, they did. Time Magazine did a pretty good piece on the shooting. You know, all the major news networks looked into it. You know, it still gets talked about 34 years later in congressional hearings and Senate committee hearings. And it still gets brought up because obviously that shooting sparked national assault weapon bans and, you know, some of the first gun laws here, you know, of that nature here in the state. And it's still talked about.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and I'm just clicking on, you had talked about that you talked to Threat, the assessment folks, which is, it's hosted in South Africa, right? And they were talking about the schoolyard massacre, AFATAP.
Yeah.
So, like, talk a little bit about that. Like, I mean, you're getting hit up by everything at even as a young boy, right? Like, everybody wants to know your feelings and your thoughts. Like, how do you streamline into like I got shot?
Well, us as adults, I couldn't comprehend what.
Like, we want to throw a mic in everyone's face as soon as something happens, right? But you're a kid, like,
right?
You know.
Well, it wasn't until my adult years, you know, especially after, you know, I chose a profession I got into, you know, which is law enforcement. It seemed like every time a school shooting or a mass shooting would happen, my phone would ring. And, you know, I've been on a lot of news stations. I've done a lot of interviews over the years, and I'll continue to do it because I like bringing the awareness. And honestly, I like the shock and awe factor when they realize that I'm pro 2A and I'm conservative, and, you know, it is what it is, right?
You go completely against the narrative.
Yeah. Well, in our pre-interview, we talked about that, right?
I'm the guy when they were trying to ban AK-47s, which was the gun that I got shot with. I went and bought one. Like, I'm that guy. So,
but talk about you going to Capitol Hill and talking, right? And they're trying to, you're using that as an example of why we need more stricter gun. You're like, no. Like, that's not what you know.
So, you know, I became a cop in 2004. I went to work for the school district police department in Stockton, which, you know, Cleveland School's a part of. So I helped, you know, patrol the entire district, you know, but Cleveland was in one of our beats. And then I worked there for about 4 years. And then I transferred to the Union City Police Department in the Bay Area. And during my time there, I became an active shooter response instructor. I was actually involved in an active shooter in 2013 as a police officer as well.
Oh.
And so, you know, talk about the full, I'm not trying to brag about myself or anything like that, but talk about the full circle, you know, the full gamut of being able to testify on why gun laws don't work, because, you know, I've been a cop for many years, and I you know, we're so soft on crime, but yet you want to be hard on gun owners. Like, it makes no sense, lawful gun owners. And so I started speaking up, and I started reaching out while I worked for Union City, and I started reaching out to these gun groups. And I wrote Gun Owners of America, and the director at the time, Larry Pratt, got a hold of me like the next day, and he was like, you know, just by happenstance, I saw your email and your desire to want to get involved. And he goes, I don't know how we're going to do this, but we're going to do this. And ultimately got me in contact with Sam Paredes from Gun Owners of California, and went out to lunch with him. And then later that night, they actually booked a flight for me to go to Washington, D.C. and speak on Capitol Hill in support of gun rights. And that all started basically with me introducing a bill that would have allowed school district officials who have a CCW to receive extra training and be able to carry on campus. Because here in California, as we know, they've made it illegal for lawful gun owners who carry in our supermarkets, who carry at banks, who carry out in public, who aren't any more threat than anybody else. They've been vetted, they've had training, but the moment they go onto campus, they're a felon if they carry their gun, unless they're law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
And the gun laws are so like obscured here for me. And, you know, and I tell my story, and I told my story on Capitol Hill, you know, and I look around at all these senators and congressmen, and I said, you know, imagine that was your kid or your grandkid or your wife who was there teaching, you know, or a loved one, and seconds matter, you know. And then I go into the national response times of police officers, and I say, look, we want to get there as quickly as we can. But even if we're on campus, I've worked on campuses that were 64.5 acres. And if me as a police officer is at corner X and the gunman enters corner A, it's still going to be several minutes by the time I find that person, even a minute. Right. And I start clapping my hands, you know, every time I clap my hands, that's somebody going down. That's your granddaughter. That's your grandson, you know, and I have these leaders that are looking at me going, oh my God, you know, and I just,
well, not to mention
right back in their face.
They walk around with security who, by the way, carries guns.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
there's just like,
there's
come
16, there was, when I was there in 2013, there were 1,600 Capitol Hill police officers that were there, not including Washington, D.C. police, not including the uniform service of the FBI, not including all the other
Secret
alphabet
Service
groups and, you know, Secret Service and, you know, all the other police department, the park police. I mean, this is just Capitol Hill. There's 1,600 police officers, and they're standing on the street corner with, you know, fully automatic weapons. And, you know, that's the safest place that I've ever been, that I've ever seen. Right. But yet we guard our schools with these signs that say this is a gun-free zone, you know, which is crazy. And criminals, they don't care about gun laws. They're not supposed to be carrying anyway. And what's the only thing that's going to stop a bad guy with a gun?
Another person with a gun.
It's a good guy with a gun. Hopefully they have the fortitude. And what law is in place that's going to stop anybody from coming onto our campus? What law is going to stop anybody once they flip that switch in their mind that they're going to, you know, inflict as much injury to people as they can? They're going to get pretty far in doing it before they're stopped, you know? And so by all means, I preach, hey, let the cops do their job once they get on scene, but you guys might need to hold it down for 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. You know, my shooting was done in 2.5. And 5 kids were killed and 30 kids were shot. And, you know, the gunman was dead as the police officers are getting on scene. It's crazy to me. So that's what I've dedicated my life to. And, you know, I've reached out to these groups and gotten involved, and I love Gun Owners of America. I love Gun Owners of California. I've testified several times in Senate committee hearings in Sacramento. I one hearing, you know, during that whole Gunmageddon thing years back, you know, I was there and they were talking about Cleveland School, and they didn't know that I was going to be the lead testimony for yeah. And it was that SB 374 with Darrell Steinberg when he introduced, when he was a senator, when he introduced like it was some law that would have outlawed 80% of long guns, you know, in California, and turned them into assault weapons. And our governor at the time, Jerry Brown, actually said, no, this is a little far reaching. Well, I was the lead testimony against that. And in fact, there's a pretty cool picture of Darrell Steinberg just mugging me in the testimony. You know, so that's great. But
well, and it's crazy. It's crazy because, you know, what you're saying, like, I'm a law-abiding citizen. I'm a CCW. And the way you're made to feel, like, if that situation goes down, I know in my heart what I'd be doing is right by taking things, but then I have to worry about where I live in this state taking that out on me and saying, no, what you did was wrong. And, you know, obviously I carry the insurance. Tried by 12, right? And carried by 6.
Right. And so, you know, that's a decision that we all have to make. And, you know, I know what I would do if I got any word that any of our schools here in Houston were, you know, getting hit. you know, or anywhere around here, you know, especially if my kids were there, I'd be a force to be reckoned with. You know, you ain't stopping me from.
Well, it'd be me and you right next to each other.
Right. You know, clear right, clear up. Let's go. You know, Bob and weave. You know,
I want to bring up a couple things, but I'll bring up one real quick. So you obviously you're a big advocate for gun ownership, right? Like that's blatant. That's
legal gun ownership.
Legal gun ownership.
Clear.
I don't want guns in the hands of the wrong people.
Yeah, right. Yeah, of course. But you get hit up by a lot of organizations, and right here, back. I know this is past, but April 12th, you had shared something for the Blue Angels of Hope, right? Or Blue Angel of Hope. They had a dinner up in Lodi.
It's coming up. It's in August.
No, okay. So I'll jump to that one. So you have one. That's the Thin Blue Line fundraiser dinner, August 26th. In Harold, California, which I've been a truck driver for 27 years. I don't know where Harold, California is. You gotta help me out with that one.
It's north of Lodi. It's kind of near.
They call it a campo. It's a campo.
It's a campo. It's towards I-5 though. Yeah. So
I love everybody from Harold. Like love all you guys. You're short of Hillsburg and you're not quite a campo. So no disrespect. Hey, so just and I'm gonna give my great commercial right now. Blue Angel of Hope, the 4th annual Thin Blue Line fundraiser dinner, Saturday, August 26th, 2023, from 5 to 9 at 12174 Borden Road in Harold, California. $75 live ticket, live entertainment, live auction, and a silent auction. There's a QR code. We'll have it posted up, and there's going to be an honorary guest, Sergeant Rob Young, for your dedication and service to Union City PD and SUSD.
So I do, because this question is actually weighing on me. So you go through this traumatic experience, and you end up going into law enforcement. What you hear about people deal with like a medical emergency and then they decide they want to become a doctor, right? Is that kind of what you went through? Is that what made your decision, or what put you in that direction?
People ask me all the time, did the shooting make you want to go into law enforcement?
Right.
The short answer, it supported it. It definitely supported it. But my dad remembers me being a 3-year-old kid saying, "Daddy, I want to be a cop." And again, I didn't come from a family of cops. I came from a family of convicts and drug addicts, man. I mean, honestly, I'm not trying to bag on my family, but it is what it is. I just knew growing up that I didn't want to be a part of that, you know, and it was always I felt like it was a calling on my life that I just could never shake. And, you know, going through what I went through as a first grader definitely solidified that desire, because I remember how safe I felt once the cops got there. I remember how safe I felt when I looked up and said, okay, these guys are guardians. These guys are warriors that are going to make sure that nothing else happens today. And I remember like, man, I want that, you know. And we had a lot of cops come into our house, you know, afterwards, you know, and my brothers, you know, they spent a lot of years getting in trouble. In fact, you know, I have a brother who's locked up now. You know, I watched my mom get locked up several times and, you know, be hauled off. And, you know, so cops in my house, it was pretty chaotic, but I always was just fascinated with them. Like, wow, like these are the good guys, you know. And I was never treated poorly by police officers. And I guess going through what I went through, even in high school, you know, we had SROs and stuff that were on campus, and they found out my story and found out who I was, and they kind of sought me out to mentor me. And I ended up doing like my senior project on the life of a police officer, and I got to do ride-alongs at 16, 17 years old, and it was just awesome. And it just, again, it was all of those experiences that solidified my desire. And so when it came time to apply, you know, I had put myself through the police academy, so the departments didn't even have to pay for it. I did it myself. I don't remember sleeping for 10 months. But the chief of police at the school district police department, the department that gave me my start in law enforcement, he was a sergeant that day when Cleveland happened. Oh, wow. And he actually responded. He was one of the, you know, the first guys on scene, and was still like taking rounds, you know, from the gunman. The gunman actually fired at him, and he didn't have a chance to get any rounds off because, you know, there's kids still running and backdrop wasn't right, but he was there. And so going through that, you know, him being there, me being there, I had introduced myself to him about a year prior, working at a restaurant. He was in there, eating with his wife, and he remembers me walking up and introducing myself. So he knew who I was and knew my story. And when he found out that I put myself through the police academy, he was like, all right, cool. Let's do this. And I think it took about a month and a half, and he had me sworn in.
That's awesome.
Wow.
So that gave me my start.
The second
That's
half
awesome.
of that was the psych eval. So how did you, obviously everybody pretty much knows your story. Like, how did that part go? And did you have a lot of questioning around that?
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of questioning, and there's always, to this day, there's a lot of questioning. We're talking about it now, everybody wants to know.
Exactly.
And I never got, even, I remember my first psych eval. I remember the guy just leaning forward. He's listening so intently on my story, and he's wanting to know everything I went through. And he's just sitting there, and I kid you not, he had tears in his eyes. Wow. And he's taking notes. And it wasn't just the story of the shooting. It was the story of everything that happened after that too, the way I grew up. And he asked me straight up, he said, why do you want to be a cop? And I said, there's a lot of reasons. I said, surviving what I did, definitely helps, but I want to be everything that, what my family isn't and what it represents. Right. Mm-hmm. And I said, I love my family. I love my brothers. I love my mom, I love my dad. I said, but I don't want to be a part of that. And I've always had this desire, and I've never been able to shake it. And, it sounds cliche, but I want to give back, and I do want to help people.
When I feel you're very open about everything, and obviously you've had some time. It's been a few years since then, right? So I think mentally it sounds, even though something like that you'll never get away from, but it sounds like you've figured it out to a point, right?
Still trying to.
But to where it's where I'm assuming your decision making skills seem to still be there because you ended up with these police departments. So Stockton Unified did have their police department in place in 89.
They had just started, and in fact, if I remember the dates correctly, I want to say they had just become post certified. In the state, they went from being a security department to an actual full fledged police department. So they were brand new, and in fact, they were at the time, they were working out of a little portable trailer at the courtyard. And I don't even think they were able to carry their guns on campus. I think at the time they had to lock their guns in a lockbox. That's how absurd our gun laws were back in the day. But I think all law enforcement.
You mean they were tougher back in the day? Weird.
So, they've spent the last 34 years really kind of justifying their existence and fighting for their existence. And the battle's been uphill. And then we get a lot of support from the community. And then, we went through this whole defund and disband police, the last several years. It's up and down.
Well, I tripped out because I've seen a Stockton Unified officer pull over somebody. I'm like, wait, they can do that? Like that wasn't even a kid. I was like, oh, I guess I better be my best behavior around Stockton Unified.
I remember the first time I made a traffic stop on the freeway. Some guy literally pulled up next to me, and I can almost see him mouthing the words that were written on my door, like school district police department, and then speeds up at 95 miles an hour, and is wondering why I'm pulling him over. And then guess what? You have a warrant. Oh, guess what? You're going to jail, buddy. We're police, dummy.
Wow. So, now, were you, speaking of your police service, were you working, what was it, last year or the year before at Stag when that went down?
Yeah, with Alicia Raygoza.
Yes.
I was there, and I have to be careful because that case is still going on.
Yeah,
I was there. I supervised that scene. I was there a minute and a half after the first call went out and started to work on her. And let's just say I had to fight several family members that were showing up as units were getting there.
I saw the scene was a mess, but
yeah. And I followed her to the hospital, was in the trauma room when they were working on her, and was with the doctors when she passed, and they called it and gave the notifications to the parents. I was there.
Wow.
I work with their uncle.
Yeah, that was my scene.
Wow. Well, and we won't ask more about that.
I mean,
it's
no, it's okay.
But it's
I could talk
something
about what I
we
could
know
talk
about
about,
here. Well, I don't want to
Yeah.
put you in any jeopardy with the open investigations. So
you posted on your Facebook, and I love this guy.
the stalking's coming now.
Well, yeah, no. Well, because again, that's what I do, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
But you keep coming back to your family wasn't the upstanding, citizens that everybody wants to be. And I watched this guy, and you had posted about Inky Johnson, right? If you don't know the Inky Johnson story, go check it out. I'm not going to get into it. Amazing story. But you posted the video that I absolutely love that he does. And your title of it is "One Bad Chapter Doesn't Define the Book." That's literally what you're doing, because obviously just growing up in a family that, wasn't straight, and it wasn't straight arrows, to becoming what you are becoming now, right? I mean, it's an ever growing your ever growing evolution. Sorry, he's on the side over here.
Well,
It's one glass of wine. Okay, it's just one glass. Yeah, you can't even see it. It's gone. It's just half a glass of wine. But and I don't want to keep pounding it in there, but it is. It's like you have changed the course of your family, of your DNA, right?
I'm very humbled. I'm very honored, to be able to do the things that I do. And, there's a lot of doors that are opening for me now. My career just came to an end in February, and I'm thinking about what next. But I've always thought about what next. And I've always thought about, ways to give back. And we talked about that earlier, even before we went live, talking about the importance of giving back.
Mm-hmm.
Everything about my story, I always tell people this. I don't tell my story to get any sympathy or any limelight or spotlight. I tell my story because I want to always inspire thought. I want to inspire the challenge to train. I want to inspire, just victims and survivors. I want to inspire them to keep going. And I tell my story to hopefully shed some light and propel that. I would continue to tell my story even if I wasn't in it, one bad chapter doesn't define the book. And it's so important. I'm not a Bible thumper. I am a Christian. I gave my life to the Lord several years back. I'm saved. I'm not soft. I'll let you know that right now, but there's a scripture that I really stand upon, and it's Romans 8:28. And I've shared this almost every time I speak. And it says, all things work together for the good, for those who love God, and those are called according to his purpose. It doesn't say all things are good. It says all things work together for the good. So that tells me that, okay, in life, there are bad things that are going to happen. And it's not necessarily God's fault. It's not necessarily, that he's allowing these things to happen. I'm sure that it's not his will for bad things to happen. But I'll tell you what, he's given me strength to get through it. And that's where I find my strength a lot of times, is when I don't have it, when I feel like I wake up, and I have bad days just like anybody else. I wake up some days and I just go, I don't want to do this, and I keep going, because my life, hopefully, it's meant for a greater purpose. It's like everybody.
Your boys at the house would be proud of you. That's your support. That's just
the importance of this is, again, and kind of why we do the show, is everybody needs to understand that there's somebody out there that's going to connect to your story, right?
Yeah.
And hopefully it changes, if they're in a certain mood, or they're going kind of through a mental health crisis, that they go, oh man, he went through that, and look where he's at. And that's what we love.
That's what we do. That's why we do the show.
Yeah. So somebody hears your story and goes, dude, he was shot when he was 6.
Yeah.
Like shot
twice
by an AK-47. Like a 6-year-old and AK-47 shouldn't even go together, right? Unless we live in a third world country, and we don't. So it just doesn't mesh. And look where you're at. You became law enforcement. You advocate for
you're the lighthouse,
gun ownership, right? It's all these things. Everything you're
now in
this day and age. And now you shoot back. And in this day and age, you're going against everything you should be, right? And showing that there is a true story, and there is light at the end of that tunnel.
I think it's important. Everybody has a story, and everybody has a reason why, and what their why is. I tell my story again, and I share my beliefs, but I also don't get offended when people don't think like me. And I think that's what's the problem with today's society is we go, hey, oh, I'm conservative or I'm liberal and I can't be friends with you because you don't think like me, or I'm pro 2A or I'm pro gun, control, and we can't be friends. We can't talk like human beings. I'm trying to move past that, and that's one reason why I started my podcast was I want to give people a voice, and I'm bringing on a lot of people that have survived some horrific things, but I have some plans to bring on some people that don't necessarily think like me, so we can have some grown up conversations, and they don't feel like they're being attacked.
Right.
I check myself because I was that one that would have probably bit back years back, and it doesn't get us anywhere, and it's not going to get us anywhere. And we need to be grown up about this, and we need to have some civil conversations, and we need to be able to allow people to share their feelings. And when people tell me, hey, I don't think that guns should exist, or I think we should outlaw more firearms, well, tell me why. Well, I don't want school districts, or I don't want school shootings to happen anymore. Okay, but tell me, if we ban guns, tell me how these things are going to stop. But it is some people's why. And it's as simple as that, because they're naive. So I take that opportunity, instead of getting offended, I'll take that opportunity. Let's talk about that. Let's dive into this a little bit if we can, and I've had people kind of go, you know what, I never thought of it like that. So I think my story and my stance is kind of a hard one to stand against.
Literally.
Well, you have a little background that kind of goes, you could start the conversation and go, oh yeah, well, back in 1989 when I was shot as a 6-year-old in a school shooting, they'll start to eat crow a little bit, because they'll be like, oh wait,
and I was a cop for 20 years.
And by the way, I scored
shootings.
And
I've been on Capitol Hill. I've been to Senate hearings, and so real quick, let me. Sorry, Mikey. Let me just do this real quick.
That's what I was going to. Is let's talk. So
go ahead, everyone. Check out on YouTube. It is the Voice of Reason podcast on all of your social media platforms. Check it out on your YouTube channel. Go check it out. The ironic part of that is Travis Haley. I just heard his story because of you, right? And I just got the clip version, and he has probably one of the quotes that has hit me the hardest in a while, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but it goes something like this. Do you remember it? Do you remember what he said?
Which one?
I mean, you're
I talk to him all the time.
I was going to say I'm sure you have a bunch, but the one that I got was, you'd ask him a question. He says, "I'm going to die one day. Knowing that creates a focus on how I'm going to live."
Yeah.
Right. I think I kind of chopped it a bit, but go check it out. Go in the clips. It's the third one that has, I don't know, 1,600 views on it. But the Voice of Reason podcast, it seems that you and Travis have kind of grown up together a bit,
No, actually, you know what? I watched Travis Haley's videos when he was the CEO of Magpul. He put out a series of DVDs back in the day when I was getting into shooting, and it was, the art of the handgun, and, him and Chris Costa. For those who don't know Travis Haley, he's a former Force Recon Marine who made a name for himself in 2004. It was actually the Battle of 444 when he was actually with Blackwater. And Blackwater headquarters in Iraq came under attack by like 1,500 Taliban, and Travis and 20 other guys basically flew in on helicopters, landed on the rooftop, and 20 guys held off 1,500 for 2 days. And that's where he became famous, because there was a video that went viral on YouTube, and then his career kind of developed. I started watching him, and I just so happened I met Travis through another mutual friend of ours who was a gun manufacturer, pretty well-known gun manufacturer who builds AK-47s of all things. Jim Fuller. I'm actually wearing a shirt right now. But Travis learned my story and brought me out to Scottsdale, Arizona, to Haley Strategic Partnerships, and had me on his podcast, The Bridge, and which is an amazing podcast, by the way. And we have a lot of things that we connected on and became good friends. I feel like I've always known them. I feel like I grew up with them. We talk all the time. I love that guy. I tell him I love him.
So
my wife is just hanging out with.
Hold on, because I don't like to be corrected. What I meant to say was because you've grown over these years about how to address and how the situation occurs, not physically growing up, Rob. Okay,
We're never gonna get
just
anybody on this show. I'm sorry, Rob. I'll take you out to dinner. We'll go.
I'm just kidding.
We'll go to
Tonight.
Yeah, I got a coffee as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you drink
Asian
but I got
kitchen, whatever it may be, pizza
Ooh,
factory, whatever it may be.
I'm just kidding.
Name literally every restaurant in Houston, right there.
Yeah, we don't have any more. That's it.
They don't sponsor us though, but hey, it's like 4.
Oh, I could probably get Derek too.
I thought we were. We've been 64 episodes in.
Yeah,
Over a year and a half.
I'll have to bug him again. He just wants to be on the show again because he likes to talk.
Okay, fine. Okay, then it's a $500 fee. And we don't take any proceeds. We give them all back anyways. I've ordered enough shirts and hats for the next 7 years.
We make our own money, so.
Yeah. But no, I obviously I bring the joke in and it's not joking, but it is one of those things where you meet someone and he does help you grow and get your story out there. And I'm definitely going to be sending Travis an email. He won't respond, but I'm going to drop your name just to let you know because that's how I get everybody to come on our show.
You'd be surprised, man. He's super down.
Yeah, he seems legit. I mean, you know, on your podcast, I like it, dude. It's just laid back, and being that you have a producer,
chill.
I mean,
you
got a producer, and shit, you got to travel to your studio. I mean, excuse us.
So funny thing about the episode of my podcast. So my podcast is very new. I'm working on my 5th episode. I mean, it's brand new. But Travis, we shot that in October on a whim. So rewind a little bit. My wife and I met on Tinder several years back.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's got all the stories.
There's a whole story to that.
I know.
Hold on.
Yeah, there is. She's a
story.
law enforcement herself. She works custody here locally. She's a deputy. But we met online. We started dating, and then we ended up getting married during COVID when everything was shut down. You know, I moved to Houston, moved in with her. We combined our kids and everything else, and we couldn't have a wedding, so we just had a wedding this past October.
Yeah, I saw that.
And Travis and his girl came down and they stayed at our house and they were here for our wedding. Well, we just got done cleaning up our venue and Travis was staying at my house, like I said, and there was an RV in my backyard and we actually shot the podcast last minute, like a 40-minute podcast because he had to leave and get on a plane. So it was like totally like just impromptu, wasn't planned. I was like, hey, let's do an episode real quick. He's like, let's do it. So it was cool. So, the rest of my episodes are in studio. That one's in an RV.
So just to let you know.
And we got security barking. He's going to start howling because we got the sirens. I don't know if you could hear the sirens, but now my dogs are going to start howling. I have 2 Rottweilers, so that's my extra security beyond everything else.
You will be tagged in multiple news feeds pertaining to SitRep 22.
Yeah, you're gonna get hit up.
The Shadow Mark podcast, Every Second Counts podcast, 2 drunk dudes in the gun room. They are all of our brothers. They are amazing dudes and dudettes that have been on our show. And I just butchered Every Second Counts podcast, but sorry, y'all.
Well, you said SitRep. And
yeah, I wanted to.
They're one in the same. One in the same.
And it's just to get the story out there, right? It's the now for me. And again, when I heard your story and I started watching some stuff, I'm like, dude, like I'm gonna shoot him a message, see what happens. And if it hits somebody, that's what we're there for, right? But it's for us. It's for our personal use of getting to understand and our therapy, But yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on and dude, please, everyone go check out The Voice of Reason. I love that name, dude.
Yeah, no,
I love that name.
Well, and then especially when he kind of gave the background behind the show.
Oh,
I
sure.
Well, can I tell you how I came up with that name?
Please.
Do.
So we brought up the murder that happened at Stag with the young girl that was stabbed to death.
Mm-hmm.
So that day, her dad ended up showing up like before the medics got there, right? As we're working on this girl. And, this guy, he's obviously from the streets, he has more tattoos on his face than most people have on the rest of their body, but he's an amazing guy. And he didn't know me from Adam, and I didn't know who he was. I didn't even know what was going on at that point. We were still trying to figure out what was going on. And I just seen, this cholo looking dude running at me, and I grab him. And as soon as I grab him, I shove him back, and I'm getting ready to draw down on him. And he's like, "That's my baby. That's my baby. That's my baby." And our officers are working on her. And I realize it's dad. And I'm confused because I'm like, this is a minute and a half into this call. How is dad here?
Yeah.
And when I grabbed him, I looked at him, and he's looking at me, uniform and, tack vest on and everything else. And I could see him kind of squaring me up. And I looked at him. I said, "Don't look at the uniform. Just look at me, man." I said, "I have a daughter her age, and she's in the best hands right now, and you're not helping. I need you to calm down and just look at me. Let's breathe. Come on, breathe with me," and then even at the hospital, when I was there, and the doctors told, parents and family members that their loved one isn't coming home alive, he took off kind of down the hallway, and I started walking with him. And I just, I asked him, I said, "Can I walk with you?" He's like, "Yeah." And he ended up collapsing in my arms, man. And I held his father, and we connected. And he told me later, it was about a week later, we ended up going to lunch. And he said, "Rob, you were my voice of reason." And I mean, I'm tearing up, like, thinking about that right now. And so, yeah, I love that name too. I didn't come up with it. So.
Wow. That makes it even more.
Yeah.
Wow. That is crazy.
Yeah. So I love that name, and it was the perfect name for it. I had another name picked out, and we actually bought domains for websites and everything else when we started launching this thing. And I was actually with Travis when we were planning my podcast, and he looked at me and he heard that story, and he goes, "There's your name right there."
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's for sure.
Well, keep your email open because you'll be hit by
yeah,
left and right.
you'll get
and they're
tell
just
the story
again, they're
more.
solid dudes, and it's the therapy for a lot of people. You even said that every day it's a new thing, right? The more you can talk about it and get the message out there, and that's what we're here for. So
yeah, I appreciate it, man. And I'm big into networking. I'm always down to meet new people, and this isn't a competition for me. This is
not for us.
We're doing this together.
Yeah,
we do this together.
Well, that's the big thing is that we talk to veterans, but the first responders, just the stories that are out there and that people understand the things other people have been through. That's the most important part, is that somebody else is hearing, dude, look at this dude. He's done what he's done after going through what he went through.
Yeah.
And you didn't have an easy childhood to boot. Like,
no.
You didn't have a childhood that would say, "Oh, he's going to be a cop. He's going to be law enforcement." You didn't have that.
He's going to be active in law enforcement. I'm sure there's a lot of law enforcement going to be around him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then,
to be on the wrong side of it.
Yeah.
I beat the statistics, and I tell people I shouldn't be here, but I am.
Well, especially with January 17th, 1989, like, and now that date's going to stick in my head because January 17th was my dad's birthday. So it just, like, when I seen the first time Eric brought it up and I went and looked, I'm like,
he said,
"Are you kidding? January 17th? Like, that was my dad's birthday." So
yeah, my daughter Allie was born January 18th, 2007.
So I'm glad you brought her up, because I want to transition into this. I'm scouring the Facebook, and I want you to talk about your proud dad moment, which I think speaks volumes. It speaks about how you and your wife have raised these kids. Why don't you talk a little bit about that? You want me to set it up for you? You want to just jump into it?
Go ahead, set it up. All right. You really have been stalking me, so
they're on the train
photos
platform
right now. As like I'm looking over.
So they're on the train platform over here, and you guys were walking up, and apparently you guys hear a young lady.
Easter Day, yeah.
Easter Day, young lady sitting there, and you can hear that something's going on right in the car. She's by herself, but she's on the phone, and I want to take you from there. You take it from there.
So we're sitting in the car, and my son's with me and my daughter's with me, and they're getting ready to go to Stockton to be with my ex-wife's family, and see their cousins and stuff. And they hadn't seen them in a while. So me and their grandparents have this thing where we put them on a train. It just keeps us from having to drive back and forth. And I heard some commotion. This gal was on her phone, And I'll be honest, I was sitting in my car and I couldn't understand what she was saying, but my daughter had to use the restroom, and there was like probably 15 minutes before the train was going to be there. And so I look at my son Christian. I said, hey, take your sister to the bathroom, make sure she gets her safe. He's like, all right. So she comes back to the car, and she's just like, she has like tears in her eyes. And she's like, Dad, she's like, do you hear what that girl's saying? I go, no, what's up? And she goes, she's yelling at somebody, and obviously it's her soon to be baby's daddy. And she's like, you need to help me out with this child. I'm going to be alone. I feel like I'm alone, and we need to be in this together. And she's sobbing, and she's like, why won't you support me, and why won't you support this kid? And my daughter, she looked at me and she's like, Dad, she's like, I feel like I need to go up and talk to her. I feel like I need to go tell her that she's not alone. And I was like, well then, baby girl, it sounds like you have a job to do. You need to go say what you feel you need to say. And I'll never shy my kids away from helping somebody. If she gets blown off, she gets blown off. And I was hoping that she wouldn't get blown off. And I watched my daughter, politely walk up and kind of stand off to the side. And the young lady, seeing that she was standing there, and I stayed in the car on purpose, but I was watching. And I see this girl kind of put the phone down, hang up, and then walk up, and my daughter says something to her. I couldn't understand what they were saying, but this girl just collapses in my daughter's arms, and my daughter just kind of, hugged her, and she just started pouring into this girl's life, and saying, you're not alone. This is going to be your story. You're going to make it through this. I don't know you, but you seem very, very strong. And she was just speaking life into this girl. And then all of a sudden the blare of the train horn is coming, and it was time for that girl to go. And I don't know what happened, but I was just proud of my daughter in that moment to not let something go by, and she felt like she needed the help and just love on people, and I'm all about that.
Well, it came from somewhere, right, Dad? I mean, yeah, she learned it from somewhere. Dude. So that's so awesome. Great. Yeah. I mean, that's one of those moments where you're just like, all right, I did something right. Yeah.
I question it sometimes, but yeah.
No, dude,
it won't, Rob. I don't know how old all of them are, but I've from 28 to 18, and trust me, every minute I'm questioning. Like, all right,
my oldest son Christian is 17. He'll be 18 in October. Allie is 16. Aiden is 15, and Lily's 12.
Yeah, there you go. So
we both have 2 and 2. Like I said, we're a combined family, but we have all 4 kids full time.
Awesome. That's awesome. Now I noticed I also Shirley Serrato, you have a lot of pictures with her, and she's part of American Veterans First.
It's my mother-in-law.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Okay. We were wondering what that connection with American Veterans First, because I knew you went and talked to. They had a luncheon at American Veterans First in Riverbank. Go check it out. Also, American Veterans First. Hit up Duke Cooper. Tell him Contagion Effect said, "Sup."
By the way, I was actually talking to somebody the other day through my job that I cannot mention, and we were talking about Veterans Organization, and they actually do Duke Cooper's books. So I was like, wow, what a small world. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, Duke retired
from American Veterans First.
Yeah, he stepped down, he retired, and he passed the torch over to Paige McLaughlin. She's former Modesto PD.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't. I mean, I don't know if you've seen some of the early shows. Obviously, in our opening,
he's in the intro.
Yeah, he is in the intro. Yeah. So he always gets on me because I'd say my dad was a Marine because my dad passed away, and he's like, "No, your dad is a Marine. Is a Marine." Yeah. I'm like, "All right, Duke, I will get that right."
I have a lot of love for Duke. Yeah, Duke's, his heart's in the right place.
Well, if you ever seen the video done of American Veterans First, there was a little video done last year where I kind of toured through there, and when they were in the other side still.
Yeah.
Not in the new side. And I was actually the one that did that video. I don't know if you saw it, but I shot that video.
I've seen.
Yeah. So it was cool. It was a great experience to meet.
That's why he's not answering my phone.
What, Duke?
I've called him like every day this week.
Have you?
Yeah, because we went to the.
He's in retirement now.
Yeah, we went to the car show a couple weeks ago,
Did you see him? Did you see him there?
No, he was out running around, and of course.
So, do you know Rudy? Did you meet Rudy
Molina?
I have met Rudy Molina. I don't know him, but Duke introduced me to him at one of the events there.
Right.
So we've been involved with American Veterans First for several years, obviously, and I try to help out as much as I can.
That's awesome.
It's a great organization.
They are. Yeah. They are. And we learned about them from Justin's family, right?
Justin Wood, who I went to school with, was killed in the Kobar Towers.
Yeah, we had his dad and mom on the show, and we learned about. That's actually the first place we learned about
moms.
Yeah, we learned about American Veterans First there. So,
another organization I work with, and I wasn't a military vet. Like I said, I was in law enforcement since I was 21 years old. But
right,
a lot of family that were in the military, a lot of friends, obviously, that were military. But there's another organization up at Jamestown, Horses and Warriors, that I help out with. I don't know if you know Jamie Franklin up there.
You've reached out, haven't you, Eric?
Yeah.
No? Okay.
Yes.
Now he will be.
No, I have.
I
have multiple emails that are in the web.
Emails and emails and emails to all organizations as we find them. So Eric does a very good job at that. No, that's what, as you go through your Facebook, you definitely see you have a strong love for veterans as well as obviously law enforcement. And those, I love your tux for your wedding, man. Nice gray tux. Is everybody else can't follow along right here, but all of a sudden you're going to get a bunch of follow requests on
It's all good, man.
Yeah,
there you go.
And you can find my social media. So I have my personal stuff and I have the professional stuff. But my professional pages on Facebook and Instagram is Rob James Young.
Okay.
On Facebook, I think it's Rob James Young Official, and then on Instagram and Facebook is also Rob Young 209. Those are my personal. So feel free to follow.
Well, if you don't mind, if you can send them to the email tonight, that way I can post for the videos to make sure I get all the right ones. Because our whole goal is when we end up posting after, we want to make sure we highlight our guests and that everybody goes and follows what you're doing. And
I'll send you my link tree.
Okay, perfect. Link tree's perfect.
Yeah,
link trees are great.
It's brand new.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's fun though. I mean, do your QR code. Now everybody can go find you anywhere, right? It's easy to go. So what made you guys start the podcast? Like, what was the driving force of starting the podcast?
It was just something that was in me again. I don't have a lot of experience with podcasts. I started watching podcasts a couple of years ago, obviously, Joe Rogan and, a couple of those big ones. But people always told me, Rob, you have a way of telling your story. You have a way with people, like you need to start one. And so I listened to, my wife was a big one, that big person that pushed me in that direction. So we decided to launch this last year, and everything that has happened in the last couple months, I'm so glad that I have it. It just gives a landing page. It gives me, a place that people can find me, and it's fun. I love talking with people. Again, I love giving people another, a platform to share their stories as well, because it's not just about mine, and so I want a nice, it's going to sound very, I'm very conservative. It's going to sound very liberal to me, but a safe place for people to come, and it's
but I do, that's the thing. I think well, not all of us, but I think society right now, and it does have to do with, some of the younger generations, that there's no such thing as a conversation anymore. There's no such thing as two points of view. And I think the more people that open that up and then people can get associated with it and see it, then they start to understand, oh, this is actually good to have two different opposing views, having a real conversation, not seeing, and right now, there's a guy that has, on social media says, he posts something and says, prove me wrong. And now he's in trouble for beating his wife. Like, it's just, there's always something, right? And when you're having good conversations like that, I think that's what's important in people to see, especially the younger generation, because
of course
they don't get it. I mean, couple of my kids, it's one point of view, and if you don't think their way, they struggle.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, and so I decided to do this. I didn't really know how to, and again, Travis Haley was a big proponent of it and kind of helped me launch professionally when I was there in Scottsdale. You know, that's where we started those other pages, and he's like, you know, you have to have a place where people can find you. And you know, he worked with my wife. My wife, you know, she jokes around, she's my manager. A lot of times if they're messaging me on the Rob James Young pages, I tell them, hey, you know, and I'm responding, you're probably getting catfished because it's probably my wife that's responding back to
That's
you.
all right. We have a bunch of guests where it's their wives.
Yeah.
You know, we may have some music artists where it's
like
their
Schaefer.
wife. Yeah, it sounds like Schaefer Mueller and Cat Nato.
Schaefer.
Yeah,
So we know that.
I try to keep up with everything. It's hard. So she helps me out tremendously. And, you know, I'm giving a shout out to my wife, Lisa, man, she's awesome. You know,
Thank you, Lisa.
She works 2 different jobs and, you know, has a lot on her plate, but she really is a driving force in this. I have a book coming. I'm working on a book right now.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'll get that to you guys as soon as I can.
So well, we got to come back on and we can pimp it. I mean, expose
yeah,
it for you.
Pimp it, expose it.
I you know, it's funny when I was logging in and I was putting my name down, I was joking around. I was like, Rob the pimp, like
Rob
the
pimp. I was like,
it would have been fun. We would have laughed and enjoyed it. I mean, we don't have a studio. We don't have a producer.
We do too. It's sponsored by angelicwines.com. What are you talking about?
And we have security in the form of Rottweilers, paparazzi.
I'll give you this. I'll tell you this one as he drops off. You can probably still hear us.
Yeah. His hopefully his battery didn't die.
That's great.
That would be great. Like there it is. Oh, there he is. Or he got a call. He probably got a call.
I did, and I had my phone on Do Not Disturb, but it was my wife calling.
Bring her on.
She's all stop talking about me.
I could tell she hit it on accident because it rang like half a time, and then she's like, oh shit.
Right. Oops.
Yeah.
So you brought up. I don't want the agency. I don't want the. Is she up there or is she in the valley?
She's here.
Okay. So we'll probably have a connection. But anyways, hey, on your guest, I'm just going to give you some feedback if you like it or not. On the guest part right there, just put your podcast
for the future. If you're on StreamYard.
Yeah,
it's
great.
No worries.
But I can also pimp you right here too.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys already have. I see the banner going across the screen.
I like it, huh?
Eric, what's funny is Eric's now I'm the quote unquote producer and Eric's now like learning how to use the ticker and it's great.
Dude, I'm the mop-up boy, dude.
If people are listening, please like, share, and subscribe.
Please.
Seriously. I mean, it helps me get the word out.
That's the most important part.
I got you, man.
I got something for everything, man.
I got
Except for so how do you end up? So is the studio like an actual studio?
Yeah, I want to hear about the studio.
That's what I want. I'm like, did we miss out on something?
No.
Do we need to open one in Houston so none of us have to drive and we could just share one?
Another thing that we're working on is we have a documentary coming, and I'm working with a couple film producers and a friend of mine who actually we were sergeants for neighboring agencies. We worked in the same town but different shoulder patches. We started this project in 2016. It kind of fell off to the wayside. We got it revamped this last year, so we're in the very beginning stages of this project. And I brought in a buddy that I grew up with who has done film projects for Netflix and HBO, and so he has a lot of experience in that. And so the three of us are putting it together, and we're going to put together a very modern, urban feel documentary about the Cleveland school shooting and the effect that it had on Stockton.
Rob, you're like me. So, you need to actually do work at some point and stop just hanging out doing nothing. Like I feel like you do nothing with your life, and
everybody's saying, man, you haven't worked at the PD since February 2nd. What are you doing with all your downtime?
You're like, what?
Have any. I'm like, I don't. I went from having one full-time job to like 7 part-time jobs, and I know that being a parent, being a husband, and it's a lot, but no, I haven't had any downtime. It's been crazy, but I'm okay. I'm doing it. I'm having fun, and it's good, but so this studio, one of the producers on the documentary, he he has no kids of his own. You know, he's a sergeant making a ton of money, has a beautiful home, and turned one of his rooms into a podcast studio because he actually has a podcast too.
Okay.
He, lives on the line. Yeah, I'll send you all that stuff. But he already had it set up, and when I told him that I wanted to do my podcast, I asked him what it would take for me to hire him, and he goes, "Let's just do it. We'll work out the things later." And he came on as a producer, and he's been helping me ever since. So
Dang, that's awesome. Meanwhile, we're over here trying to get, we moved up into, my 18-year-old had 2 rooms because, his brothers have all moved out and everybody else has moved out. So he's the only kid home. So he had 2 rooms, and I'm like, dude, you got to get out of one of the rooms. I'm taking it over. We're going to move the podcast in my office up here. And so we're waiting. I actually just got the green screen paint. So we're going to put up green screen. So then I don't, like, tonight I've been somehow disappearing randomly. Like I find myself learning green. Yeah, I guess something's like, look, I randomly disappear.
Yeah, it's like the ghost of Mike.
Yeah, exactly. So can't wait to, hopefully by next week we'll have the green screen paint, so we don't have this, that you can't see the blue. I can show you the blue wall behind me. So,
I mean, I would love. I don't have the resources for it right now, but I am looking to have an actual like commercial property to go to and actually have a studio and a place to come and event center type thing.
Man, I have a real estate guy that you can get a hold of.
No, I don't. We're not advertising. Yeah, I do that too. So I do wine, I do real estate, I do social media, and then I have a 9 to 5 job or 8 to 5 job. So that's why I said me and you, well, 6 to 5, because the 6 to 8 is the social media thing. Me and you, we have a hard time just relaxing because I tried to take like a semi-retirement and ended up needing to go back to work.
I'm not getting a paycheck yet. So the whole CalPERS thing, that's months and months, and it doesn't happen overnight. And so and the way the ruling is with my injury, because it's been since 2017 off and on, like I had no more time on the books, and I had last month was my last paycheck from the PD. Yeah, so now I'm waiting on disability, waiting on my medical retirement to kick in, but making it work.
Got to do something, right?
Yeah, when you see me stand on the street corner, just gotta make money.
I'll look. We'll
selling candy bars.
There you go. Well, in Houston, I mean, you could sell a lot of stuff. So who knows? Who knows? Almonds, whatever it may be. Whatever it may be.
You can start another boutique.
Exactly. Well, there's the Curve now. We just had the Curve open. That's Shelby's.
Yeah.
Anyways, hey Rob, so I do have a super serious question, right?
Hang on.
So what are you saying hang on for? You want to write it down? You want to write it down?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, you're gonna have to show your answer.
I am.
All right, you and the wife chilling out, relaxing. He showed me the answer up there. What's your end of the night, what's your go-to drink?
Oh gosh, my wife is definitely, she loves margaritas. Me, my go-to drink, I'm a Jack Daniels guy. I like Jack and Coke, Jack and ginger ale.
Pay the hell off. Never mind.
But I like whiskeys, man. So like Pendleton.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you got to watch next week. We got Triple B on. It's a bourbon.
Maybe we can work a partnership out for you.
Bourbon company.
All right. I'm down for any type of bourbon and whiskey.
Bourbon Battle Buddies. You can come hang out the house and chill out next to us while we're doing the show if you want, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be. So has your wife had margaritas from Agave?
Oh yeah, we love agave. We were just at Agave like 2 nights ago.
What question is that?
Well, I mean,
that's a softball question. I was like, here's a beach ball. Like, it's like the only freaking place to go to get a margarita.
I think Rob could honestly hang out with most people and have.
Oh no, Rob could definitely hang out.
With personality to where he's.
Oh yeah.
Well, and obviously being in law enforcement, and I mean, not everybody understands, and I've been to towns, and I grew up in LA, and I've been to, East LA. I've been to Compton. I've been Long Beach, some of the worst parts of Long Beach. Stockton still for me, man. It's like, and I had to work there. I worked for Boost Mobile. So I had stores, like my buddies. I don't know if you ever went to Sanchez Services or knew any of the kids from Sanchez Services, right there on Wilson Way. But that was probably my favorite store because I got along with the whole family. But some of my stores were on Airport and 8th Street, and I knew nothing ever was visible in my car.
We love all of our Stockton peeps. CVMA 32-2. Love you, 33.
They're doing
great things to change the culture of Stockton and the surrounding areas.
I'm just saying the world I lived in was a lot different.
I'm just saying,
it's a beast, man.
Yeah.
Jack Daniels curse.
Thanks for checking in.
What's up?
Much
Mama
love
Thompson.
to the Thompson family right now.
Exactly.
Much love.
So if I'm gonna mix it, it has to be Jack Daniels, but I like stuff on ice too, and I will never mix those other ones. So
really,
I'll put that out there. Yeah.
Wow.
So
he's got to be very clear. He's very particular.
Yeah. It's my throwdown. It's like Taco Bell, right? Like, you're hungry. There you go.
Go to Waterford.
Hey,
not River Point. Not River Point.
Don't bring that crap over here. Can't deal with that.
Man, this whole me disappearing thing is kind of crazy, but it is what it is. Well, Rob, we appreciate, man, the story is amazing. And the fact I'm so excited, and that you live in my town and our town.
We're gonna collaborate.
Yeah, we definitely we need to hang out, maybe go do dinner or something.
Yeah.
Eric's way over there in River Point, so
13 and a half
kind of
minutes
like
I can be here.
It's kind of like Harold and Acampo, Eric, maybe.
Right.
Healed first of all. Not
Healed,
Harold. I don't even know where Harold is
Healed.
either.
Sorry, Healed and Acampo.
Healed.
I'm pretty sure you said
Healed's
Harold
on
though.
5.
Yeah, Healed and
Field's
Acampo.
on 5. Acampo's on 99. They're like nobody.
You still didn't know where it was, but all right.
Healed.
Anyways,
we great organization.
Need to hang out, Rob.
Go check out Blue.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, go check out the banner. It's going to be posted.
We will.
Thank you so much, bud. Appreciate you, man.
If you share all your stuff with me through the email, I will get it posted. I post everything tomorrow morning, so
cool.
Would be Lancaster exactly.
See, Mikey knows.
Look at Woodbridge.
I'm a veteran trucker.
Woodbridge.
He's getting ready to retire.
I lived in Woodbridge, man.
Did you?
See?
There you go.
Mikey checking in.
Houston's better. Houston's better.
Yeah, it is.
Well, yeah, they're not state champions, 5 divisions.
Well, Woodbridge isn't. No. Houston is state champions.
So I just said
Woodbridge has McCallum River, and that's about it.
There you go. There you go. When we got almonds. Anyways, Rob, thank you so much. Feel free to hang out. We could chat after a little bit, and while we end it, we try to keep it going nice and smooth and end it quickly. So
cool.
Thank you for sharing your story. Amazing story. Amazing person. Doing big things. I look forward to it, man. You're busy, so you're gonna be doing some big things. I'm excited.
Super.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys, man. Seriously.
Thanks, you.
Bud.
All right.
All right. We will talk to you in a minute.
Cool.
Thanks.
Again, go check out the Voice of Reason podcast.
And we will have in the show notes, we will have all of Rob's links so you can go follow him, support him. I'm excited now to hear about the book, about the documentary. I mean, that was stuff we weren't expecting. So that is exciting to hear. Yep. And man, just go that's a story right there to hear.
You can always go to the Contagion Effect show if you want to get a shirt or hat to wear,
or some biker pants,
or some biker pants, or some socks,
some spandex.
You can wear that. If anybody, I'll tell you what. Listen, here's the deal.
Oh,
I got a $20 bill. If anybody buys anything from Contagion Effect show,
you're gonna get
and wears it to Hero Stock 2023 in September. I will give you a $20 bill and buy you the first round of drink for you. And if you wear a Sit Rep
the Hero
22,
Stock shirts, by the way, the Hero Stock shirts look legit.
Dude, I got an order. Steiner. I cannot wait.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna cut you off.
I didn't say nothing.
We're gonna Eric.
I didn't say nothing.
Eric, I know where you're going with it.
I wasn't gonna say nothing.
I already had a conversation this morning.
Also, go check out sitrep22.org.
There you go. See, Steiner will wear the spandex pants.
I'm sure he would.
I think Eric's on the front area and I'm on the back area, whatever it may
Probably
be.
hugging your nuts.
There you go. Something like that.
And go check us out. Go check out the Gunroom Radio. Go check it out because they have music. They have podcasts on there. They have a bunch of cool podcasts on there. And thanks, Mikey. Appreciate you, buddy. Did a great job.
Oh,
way to hold it together.
Thank you for that, Eric.
Or her number? No, it wasn't. It was like 70 deuces.